Hi everybody, my name is Carla Hampton and I'm so glad that you joined me today. I was wanting to share with you a really neat storage system for your sewing. So we're going to be making this item right here. So just bear with me today. I know it looks complicated, but it really isn't, and we'll get started. First thing we're going to need for this project is we're going to start out with one piece of foam core. This is a 20 by 30 piece of foam core board. So we're going to actually take it and cut it right down the middle. All right, so now we have two pieces of 10 by 30 foam core board. We want to glue them and make a large L like so. Okay, you're going to glue the top board onto the back of the other board touching the table. So once we have the back glued onto the front, go ahead and secure it by putting a bead of glue all the way down this seam. This will give it a little bit more security. Now we need to put our sides. So we need to measure that and find out what size we need. We know that the width of this bottom board is 10 inches going this way. So we're going to take another piece of foam core board, and we know that we need 2 end caps at 10 by 10 1/4. So we'll measure that out and get that cut. Now we have 2 end caps. Next, we're going to take our panels and glue them on to each of the sides. Make sure this is touching the table and comes up to it like that to glue it. Same with the back. It should line up evenly in the front when you get it glued. Okay, we'll do that next to both ends and we'll be right back. So now we want to make our slats so that we can slide our bulks of fabric in. So this is going to be 10 long by 9 3/4 tall. I'm going to make 5 on each side, and then we're going to do something else here in the middle. And we're going to put these 2 inches apart, unless you want them a little bit wider, depending on the bolts that you put inside of these slots. Okay? So I'll get one glued in and show you how that. One more thing I wanted to share before I put the slats in is it's a good idea to start with the inside here and measure if you're going to do 2 inches apart. And you just line it up with butt it up against that and mark 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And then do that on this back wall as well. Then you connect it with the ruler and it'll help you put your shelves on straight. All right, and then I haven't glued this back part on yet. But when you get that black back part glued on, everything will look really nice and tidy. Also on the top here, you want to go ahead and mark from in here to 2 inches as well. That way it will be straight on this area. Now to glue this, I want to center it on that line that you drew and just go up the side to glue this one. And it has a nice glue bead all the way up it. So I'm going to get the rest of these on this side on and I'll be back. Okay, so as you see here, I've got these boards in. There's 5 boards, 2 inches apart, and this is how it's looking. Now we're going to do the exact same thing on this side. Now we have both sides done. 5 openings over here and 5 over here, so it'll hold 10 bolts of fabric, and I'll show how that looks at the end. Next, we're going to build a box in here, and we're going to leave 2 inches from the top because we're going to do something really neat right there. So what I've done here is I came from the top, measured down 2 inches, and I drew me a line. It's going to go like so, okay? So I'm going to get that glued in and go ahead and measure down here 2 inches so it can all be level, okay? And then I'll be back. And that is what you have after you've come down 2 inches and you've measured and you've glued you a piece. Next, I'm going to take a 1/2 inch piece foam core board and I'm going to glue it to the front here right where that is to cover that edge and then to be a blocker. And all you have to do to make this is measure from this board, on the outside of this board, to the outside of this board. And then we're going to glue that on next. That's what that looks like. As you can see, it just comes up 1/2 inch. I lined it up with the bottom of the board, and now we have our little edge, okay? So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut some more 1/2 inch strips. Just measure from here to here, and you're going to cut 1/2 inch strips, and we're going to glue every 1.5 inches. And what this is going to be for is we're going to store our thread up here. So we'll have our thread, then we'll have a line, and that will keep your thread in place. And then we'll do another 1.5 inch and go all the way as far as we can. Also, I'd like to share a little trick with you, what I've done so that I can measure these out in the correct space. I've made me a little block that's 1.5 inches. It doesn't matter how wide, but you want something that you can just lay down like so, and then you can make your marks here, and then butt that right up against that and glue it. And that helps you have exact dimensions all the way to the back. Hope that helps. So all these can be filled with threads, and they won't move around on you. So I thought that was a cool addition. So now that we've got this made, we're going to go ahead and make a drawer that fits inside this square. So the first thing we're going to do is measure inside that box. And you want it a pretty tight drawer, but you don't want it too tight. So first, I'm going to cut my front width, and that is 9 7/16. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this whole board that size. Okay, so this is our front piece. So this will be the front, and you can go ahead if you want and scribble a little F to help you remember where you're at. So now I'm going to cut it 9 3/4. And this will be the front to the back of my drawer, okay? So now we have our bottom for our drawer. Now we'll just build the sides up around this. So this is the box so far. I made a couple changes. The bottom here is still 9 3/4 or 3/4, 9 3/4 long. And I went ahead and made my sides 7 inches tall. They're 7 by 9 3/4. And then my back piece is 9 3/8 in between these two boards here. So it's going to make it shorter than the normal width, okay? So I put this board in between it. So the back piece is 9 3/8 by 7 inches tall. So they're all 7 inches tall. And I glued all of them on the top of the base. I didn't glue them on the side, but I glued them on the top of this bottom piece, okay? So that made them have to be shorter. So now I'm gonna make my front panel. And what you have to do that, so you wanna measure from here to here and get that measurement. And then you wanna measure from the bottom all the way on the table to where this lip is. And that's the size square you're going to make for the front of the box. And we'll glue that on. And I'll show you once I get that made. Okay? So I'm going to measure out my drawer front, which ended up being 10 inches wide by 7 5/8 tall. So that's what I'm going to make this board right here. So this should fit on the front of the box, and then it should set right in there just like we want. Before we glue this on though, I want to make a U-shaped design here so that you're able to just put your hand in there and pull the drawer open. So that's what we're going to do next. I'll draw that out and I'll be back. So all I used to make my little pull out is I found something that's a circle, and I just put a little bit of the circle up here and I draw it around it, and I came up with that. So now I'm going to cut that out now, and there we have it. So we're going to make that the front of our drawer. That way you can just reach in there and pull really easy. Okay, so I wanted to make a correction. This is actually 10 by 7 3/4 tall. So that's how big this drawer is, 10 by 7 3/4 tall. Once you get your drawer front glued on, go ahead and take your hot glue gun and do a bead of glue all around and really secure that drawer. So when you pull on it, it will be more secure for you. Okay, so do that all around the edges. So here's what it looks like. Now it has a drawer, and you just pull that in and out. But once you get some stuff in it, it should pull out easier. But that's how it looks. And another thing I want to do before we go on, I'm going to go ahead and I may go ahead and cut these. That way they will hold the bulks of fabric, and I can get the fabric out easier, and it adds a little bit of a decoration to the box. So let me do one and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so here's what I did. I just did it to the first one because since I've already put it together, I have to do one at a time here. But this is something you would want to do before you start the project. And all I did was come in from here to the 2 inches in, and then from here to 2 inches up. And then I just connected it, made a mark, and connected it with a ruler, and then just cut it out with my X-Acto knife. Okay, so I'm going to do the rest of these, and then I'll be back. Okay, so here's what we've got. I went ahead and took all these, kind of cornered them. And remember, this is something you want to do before because this was not easy to do. And then I went ahead and took a little triangle off the tops of these two to kind of make it all symmetrical. This is an endless project you can do. You could curve these, you could make pretty designs, but do it all before you glue it together, of course. So here we go. This is what it ends up looking like. You've got place for 10 bolts of fabric. You've got sewing thread options. You've got a drawer. You can put scissors or other, maybe some rolled fabric, something that you don't have a place for. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, because I know this is a complex tutorial, put them in the comments below. I appreciate you watching. So I will see you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.